Hi, this is Andrew from controladkill.org, and we're here with the lead designer from Resistance 3, and his name is Drew Murray.
Drew Murray, yep.
So, can you talk a little bit about what we saw in the boat sequence? And I see that you're really trying to get big bosses back into Resistance 3. So, was that a conscious choice? Like, we want to make big bosses because we want to focus on big bosses or more varied gameplay. Can you talk a little bit about the consequences and design decisions you had to make?
Sure. And I think the main thing is we really just wanted to create more of a holistic player experience. Some of that is the bosses, some of that is the spectacle, some of that's the sort of different locations that you'll be traveling through. But as far as the bosses go, we wanted to have more sort of variety of gameplay. A lot of our enemies kind of have fallen into the shooter or melee, and bosses really give us an opportunity to do something a little bit different, make you have to use a little bit more strategy, especially with the variety of weapons that we've got, allowing those to sort of play out in different ways. And so yeah, we kind of started over at ground zero with the bosses and built them from the ground up.
What's one of the, I assume designers put their heart and soul into every game they make, and what are some of the design decisions that you think are some of the best decisions you've made?
And I think at the core, going back to the weapon wheel with all the weapons, I think, allowing players to have that player choice anytime during the game of what weapons they want to use. I like the health system. We're going back to a health pack health system. It's kind of old school, but we've actually had a lot of internal debates with, it's not what everybody does now, and that's okay. This is Resistance. I think we feel very comfortable doing what we think is best for the franchise at this point. Beyond that, I think it's just really embracing what is special about the Resistance game. Something that I kept saying to the designers when they were working on the levels and enemies and things is, there's so many military shooters. There's so many shooters just, I think, fall into a pretty narrow band. And I kept saying, what could only happen in the Resistance universe? What makes us different and special from every other franchise out there? And I think we really focused on that, and those things are what we spend our time and really put our heart into, and I think those things are the things that make us stand out.
Right. After playing the single player demo, I went directly to normal, right? And every time on the presentation screen, everybody's moaning, groaning, casual. What's kind of up with that? Design decision. You want to make a good presentation, of course.
That's just Paul. That's Paul Featherstone playing. He just doesn't want to embarrass himself. Frankly, it gets boring watching players, die and have to replay something. So I think that was the decision. We've actually been tuning. We've in the previous two games we've tuned for normal and tuned up for the more difficult things. This game we've actually been tuning at hard and then tuning down. I think it's easier to make things a little bit easier instead of sort of tuning things for what feels right and then trying to make them harder. I think you sometimes get into cases where you're punishing the player a little too much on those higher difficulties, and I think we're doing difficulty tuning in a lot of more ways that I think are a little bit. They have less to do with just the damage that players are doing to the enemies and vice versa. It has more things with how quickly the enemies become accurate when they're aiming at you and things like that. So it feels different, but it's not just brutal and punishing.
One of the biggest things about Resistance series is the weapons, right? And in the single-player demo, I absolutely love the tether gun, right? Bullseye.
Yeah.
So, and you shoot it, grabs on an enemy, especially it's easier because those are the flying enemies, the long legs guys, yeah. Proud of all the weapons, but changing up gameplay wise as far as design.
That's a great question. I'm not sure. We haven't announced a lot of weapons, and I would say that I think the ones that we haven't announced are the ones that get the weirdest and wildest and have the effects that people are going to be I've never seen that in a game before. But I think the bullseye that you mentioned, that's one of our core weapons, but I think it's also a weapon that the players who have played Resistance 1 and Resistance 2, they're going to come to it, and it's going to feel like a really different weapon. I think, we've got, all the guns have true iron sights, and we've got this sort of weird holographic sight that's pretty different from anything I've seen in other games. We've had the tag before in previous games, but I think the tether really gives you the feel of I'm connected and helps players understand that. All the guns are going to upgrade twice, and so it's going to be building on the behavior it already has. So honestly, I'm kind of proud of us taking some of the guns that have become, maybe sort of typical and not the most exciting to players from the previous games, and actually like revitalizing them and making them really cool for players who have played the game.
And I'm kind of proud that when you level up the weapons in the game, is it possible that you can go back through the game in like a second run through with your upgrades?
We're definitely planning on keeping the upgrades. So if you play through on normal or hard and you go into superhuman, you're going to keep those upgrades. It's going to help you out with the tougher difficulties.
Awesome. And as far as like AI and multiple enemies on screen, how much has that played a role in level design? And as far as like, because I've been seeing in the levels there, as far as like wide open arenas, and then they funnel you into the next arena, and there's boat sequence kind of changes it up because it's linear, and it kind of just takes you through the level. So can you speak about how AI influences how you design levels?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of it is just, again, back to the player experience and having a real diversity. I think as far as just general combat, we definitely wanted to go back to, I think, more of a Resistance 1 spirit, where it's a little bit more open, a little more choices. We've also revamped the AI from the ground up, and going from sort of scripting guys to go to particular spots. We've got this concept of job boards where we give we'll take a group of enemies and give them different jobs. We've got like aggressive and defensive, normal. We've got flankers. And, we'll say we got a group of 8 guys, one of them's aggressive, 4 of them are defensive, 3 of them are flankers. And they really decide how to operate best in the situation. And so you get in an arena, the player's got a lot of choices. The enemies know generally what they're trying to do in relation to the player, but they figure out best how to do that based on where the player is in the environment. And the great thing is if you play through multiple times, with the AI figuring out what to do, it really makes each setup a little bit different, because the 3 guys who are flanking you, they may pick a different path based on specifically where you are at any one time, or they may just pick a different, they may pick flanking left instead of right one time. So I think as far as multiple playthroughs go and that kind of thing, I think it really mixes up and makes the experience fresh, even if you're playing through multiple times.
Especially with co-op in it too, right?
Yeah, with co-op, keeping your upgrades with as you play through multiple times. I think definitely think it's a game that you'll be able to play through 2, 3, 4, 5 times and still be excited and still find something fresh each time.
Thank you very much. And Resistance 3 comes out
September 6th. Pick it up.
All right. Thank you.